Hey, mountain bikers, let's talk about oval chain rings instead of round. My favorite crank set is the Race Face DS bolt with a puller cap. 5/8 Allen to 8mm adapter comes with the cranks, so either crank on either side can be easily removed. So here we are with the lock ring removed and the chain wheel separated from the crank. Here is the ultimate black oval chain ring with the dot aligned with the crank. Now we torque up the lock ring. Don't forget some release grease on the spindle and the crank. See the chain wheel on the right. Notice that the number of teeth and the circumference is the same, only the radius changes. The previous was for the high gear. Here is a middle gear. Notice the derailleur and how much it moves. Here is the lowest hill climbing gear. Notice that this derailleur seems to move a little bit more in this gear. Well, how did it work? Dave and I headed toward an intermediate uphill, technically challenging area of stacked slabs of rock on the southeast side of Granite Mountain. I transited the 1/4 mile trail without stalling, the first time ever with the ovals. The ovals recovered some of the lost torque given up by riding on flats. They also recover some of the lost traction given up by riding a hardtail. And it does this without adding the weight of either full suspension or clipless pedals. Well, I looked long and hard for an internet analysis of these oval chain rings, and I found one good one out of many. It was done by Borut Fonda. He's the Laboratory for Motor Control and Motor Behavior at the University in Slovenia. He claims that there was no interest conflict, none. He states that the forces applied to the pedals within a crank cycle are not constant. Of course, we already knew that. The minimum torque is normally produced at the top and bottom points of the crank cycle, and the highest somewhere between 90 and 110 degrees. The hypothesis was that using an oval chainring, it will result in an increase in the index of effectiveness, which is the amount of tangential force component on the pedals during a complete cycle. Number two, a decrease in total force. In other words, easier on your knees, hip, and ankle joints. And thirdly, an increase in gross efficiency. That's of most interest to competitive mountain bikers. They use 7 male trained cyclists, 28 to 40 years old, average weight about 160 pounds, 70 inches tall, and were avid bicyclers. They averaged about 4,000 miles per year. Participants used their own bicycles mounted on a direct drive ergo trainer, which measures the watt output at the rear axle. The charts that I've shown here are very interesting. The total force is 4% lower, making things easier on our legs, and the gross efficiency is 4% higher. The conclusion by Borut, based on the results of this study, he says we can conclude that if using oval chain rings for a longer time, cyclists will spend less energy at a given power output and potentially could ride for longer. To test Borut's data for reasonableness, I collected data on the first 12.1 mile ride I did with Dave around Granite Mountain. My average speed was 10.15 miles per hour. My normal, typical speed on a ride like this around Granite Mountain is 9.7. That was a 4.6% increase in speed. I'm pretty convinced ovals are 1. Easier on the leg joints, 2. More efficient, 3. Stiction traction more even around the crank cycle, and 4. through the area of reduced torque quicker. Thus, they are safer for mountain bikers that are older and wiser.